Have you ever pondered why people get addicted? Is it just about the substance or activity, or is there a deeper issue at play? Welcome to a world where things aren't always as they seem. Today, we delve into the often misunderstood realm of addiction. It's a problem that's far more widespread than you might imagine. From substances like alcohol and drugs to activities like gambling and even social media scrolling, addiction wraps its tendrils around every corner of society. But is addiction really just about these substances or activities, or is there a more profound underlying issue that we're missing? This is where we introduce the concept of childhood trauma. It's a silent specter that haunts many of us, often without us even realizing it. And it's this unseen ghost that can potentially influence addictive behaviors later in life. Childhood trauma can take many forms, from physical and emotional abuse to neglect or the loss of a loved one. These experiences can cast long shadows over a person's life, subtly shaping their behaviors and responses. And sometimes, to cope with the lingering pain of these shadows, people may turn to addictive substances or behaviors. The crux of our discussion today is a simple yet profound shift in perspective. It's not about the addiction, but the pain. The pain that stems from those long-ago experiences that have left deep, often unrecognized scars. These scars can act as a magnet, drawing individuals towards addictive behaviors in an attempt to soothe or perhaps even forget the pain. So when we talk about addiction, let's shift the narrative. Let's change the conversation from blame and shame to understanding and empathy. The question we need to ask is not why the addiction, but why the pain. Childhood trauma is not always visible, but its effects can last a lifetime. When we speak of childhood trauma, we're addressing a spectrum of experiences that deeply impact a young person's sense of safety and stability. At one end of this spectrum, we find incidents of neglect. This can take the form of emotional neglect, where a child's feelings are consistently dismissed or ignored, or physical neglect, where a child's basic needs for food, shelter, and care are not met. Moving along this spectrum, we encounter experiences of emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. Emotional abuse may involve persistent criticism, humiliation, or rejection. Physical abuse, on the other hand, involves intentional acts of violence causing harm to a child. Sexual abuse involves any sexual activity that a child cannot comprehend or give consent to. Often, these traumatic experiences happen within the very environments where children should feel safest: their homes, their schools, their communities. For a child, these experiences can be incredibly confusing and frightening, leading to a profound sense of insecurity and fear. These experiences do not occur in a vacuum. They become etched into the child's developing brain, shaping their perceptions of themselves and the world around them. Over time, these experiences can lead to long-term psychological effects, such as anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Children often internalize these experiences, believing that they are at fault. They may develop a negative self-image, feeling unworthy of love and care. They may struggle with trust, finding it difficult to form healthy relationships later in life. These traumatic experiences can cause deep-seated pain, which individuals often struggle to cope with. The invisible wounds of childhood trauma can linger, driving patterns of behavior and coping mechanisms that can last well into adulthood. Trauma and addiction might seem unrelated, but they are intricately connected. To understand this link, we must first explore the way individuals respond to trauma, particularly when it occurs during the formative years of childhood. Trauma can leave deep emotional scars that persist long after the event itself. These scars often manifest as feelings of fear, anxiety, and depression, which can be overwhelming and difficult to manage. For some, the struggle to navigate these emotions can lead to a desperate search for relief. This is where addiction comes into play. Addiction, in many ways, is a coping mechanism. It's an attempt to escape, to numb the pain, or to gain control over the chaos that trauma can create in one's life. This is often referred to as self-medication, a term that encapsulates the idea of using substances or engaging in addictive behaviors to alleviate emotional distress. Take, for instance, a child who experiences a traumatic event. They might grow up feeling unsafe, anxious, or disconnected. As they move into adulthood, these feelings may become a constant undercurrent of their daily life. In an effort to quell these emotions, they may turn to drugs, alcohol, or other addictive behaviors. These substances or behaviors provide a temporary reprieve, a momentary escape from the relentless waves of emotional distress. However, this relief is fleeting, and when it fades, the emotional pain returns, often amplified. This leads to a vicious cycle where the individual becomes increasingly reliant on their chosen coping mechanism, thus spiraling deeper into addiction. But it's crucial to remember that addiction isn't about the substance or behavior itself. It's about the underlying pain that drives the individual to seek relief. It's not about the drinking, the drugs, or the gambling. It's about the fear, the anxiety, the isolation born from past trauma. In essence, addiction can be a misguided attempt to cope with the pain of childhood trauma. It's a complex issue that requires understanding and compassion, not judgment. As we delve further into this topic, we'll explore how we can move beyond stigma and towards healing. Addiction is not a moral failing, but a response to pain. Let's take a moment to reflect on this. For too long, society has painted addiction with a broad brush of negativity, viewing it as a character flaw or a lack of willpower. However, it's high time we shift our perspective and see addiction for what it truly is: a cry for help, a reaction to deep-seated pain. Our society, unfortunately, is steeped in stigma when it comes to addiction. This stigma can be a formidable barrier, often preventing those struggling from seeking the help they need. It's a vicious cycle, really. The stigma breeds shame, the shame fuels the addiction, and the addiction reinforces the stigma. But what if we looked beyond this stigma? What if we chose to see the person, not the addiction? What if we recognized that behind every addicted individual is a story of pain, a story that needs to be acknowledged, not shamed? Imagine a world where we replaced judgment with understanding, discrimination with empathy. A world where we saw addiction not as a moral failing, but as a complex interplay of trauma, pain, and coping mechanisms gone awry. We need to remember that addiction isn't about the substance or the behavior. It's about the pain, the trauma that led to the addiction in the first place. It's a symptom, not the problem itself. Addiction is a human experience, not a moral indictment. And so it deserves a human response, a response that is compassionate, empathetic, and understanding. A response that acknowledges the pain and offers help, not scorn. Only then can we break the cycle of addiction. Only then can we help individuals heal, not just from the addiction, but also from the pain that led to it. Only then can we truly say that we've moved beyond the stigma of addiction. By understanding addiction as a response to pain, we can start to approach it with empathy and compassion. Healing is possible. Overcoming addiction is possible. In the journey of life, sometimes we stumble, sometimes we fall, but what defines us is not the fall, but how we rise. Healing from childhood trauma and overcoming addiction are not easy tasks. They require courage, commitment, and most importantly, a belief in oneself. Let's start with therapy. Therapy is a powerful tool that helps us process our experiences and emotions. It provides a safe space to explore our past and understand how it affects our present. A skilled therapist can guide us through our journey of healing, helping us to understand our trauma, its impact, and how we can move forward. Therapy is not a one-size-fits-all solution. There are different types of therapy, each designed to address specific issues. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT for instance, can help us change our negative thought patterns, while eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, or EMDR, can be effective in treating post-traumatic stress disorder. It's important to find a therapeutic approach that resonates with us and a therapist we trust. Support groups also play a crucial role in overcoming addiction. These are spaces where we can share our experiences, challenges, and victories with others who are on a similar journey. They help us realize we are not alone, and that it's okay to ask for help. Support groups can be a source of strength, encouragement, and hope. Then, there's self-care. It's not just about bubble baths and chocolate, though those can be part of it. Self-care is about nurturing our physical, mental, and emotional health. It's about setting boundaries, prioritizing our well-being, and doing things that bring us joy. Exercise, meditation, journaling, spending time in nature, these are all examples of self-care practices that can aid in healing and recovery. Finally, it's important to remember that healing and recovery are not linear. There will be ups and downs. There will be days when we feel like we've taken 2 steps back. But that's okay. It's all part of the journey. Remember, healing is a process, not a destination. It's about progress, not perfection. And while the path may be challenging, it's one worth taking. With the right support and resources, individuals can heal from their trauma and break the cycle of addiction. The journey to recovery may be long and challenging, but it is undoubtedly worthwhile. We've unraveled a significant connection today, the link between childhood trauma and addiction. It's crucial to understand that addiction is often a coping mechanism, a response to deep-seated pain from past traumas. It's not about the substances or behaviors we often stigmatize, but about the underlying hurt that drives individuals towards these coping mechanisms. We've also explored how addiction transcends the stereotypes and stigmas we've built around it, manifesting in many forms that often go unnoticed. But remember, healing is possible. Overcoming addiction involves confronting and healing from these traumatic experiences. So, let's shift our focus from why the addiction to why the pain. It's a journey of understanding, compassion, and recovery. As we part ways today, I invite you to join us on this journey. If you found this video enlightening, subscribe to Authentic Self-Mind Care and give this video a like. Let's foster understanding and compassion for those grappling with addiction. Remember, it's not about why the addiction, but why the pain. Thank you for watching.